I do think of the album as having two sides, kind of like vinyl. So on the one side is love. It is lighter and feels more joyful and hopeful, both lyrically and musically. And then there's the protest side that is heavier and more intense and has a bit more fire to it. So the protest side, we can say, came first. It came organically as a reaction to anti-Black racism, and in particular, killing of unarmed Black people by racist cops and vigilantes. It was a direct reaction to that. But at the same time, while you're feeling these feelings of anger and injustice, there's also a lot of beauty and joy and love in life. And we know that love is supposed to be the answer to all things. So sometimes I say that this album is the juxtaposition between love being the answer and anger being the fuel to fight for something better, to move the needle, to wake and shake people up out of their complacency. When I wrote Let It Burn, I was in Oman, which is a country in the Middle East, and I was doing a residency there in the piano lounge at the Shangri-La Hotel for a few months and playing 6 nights a week. But during the daytime, I had a lot of time on my hands to do leisurely things and also a lot of songwriting, which was really great. I had already loosely started thinking about love and protest as a concept for an album, and this was the first song that I wrote with it directly in mind. And it was a really hot, well, every day is hot. It's the Middle East. But anyway, I wrote it outside, the lyrics I wrote outside by the beach in these little cabanas that they have, and it was really too hot for anyone else to want to be out there, so I would just go every day with my guitar and my notebook and do some writing. So this footage is when I was working out the melody after I had finished the lyrics in my hotel room. You can tell that I'm still kind of getting it together. It's not quite fully formed just yet.
Self-serving interests get us nowhere. Whenever harms us all, anger puts things into action. We need to let this construct fall. Let it burn. Let it burn. Let it burn. Let it burn. People are saying it needs fixing.
Because Let It Burn is the oldest song on the album, it's also the one that's been performed the most live in pretty much any configuration I could think of. I've done it solo, I've done it with my looper, I've done it as a duo with bass and guitar or percussion and guitar. I've done it with a full 6-piece band. I've done it on large stages and little stages in the woods or in a park. So it's been really cool to watch it evolve over time and sort of sink into its depth and its weight in my repertoire.
And keeping people blind. I say that's it in all this anger. It gets more done than fragilities. Ask the people if they've had enough, and they're deafened by their cheers. Let it burn. Let it burn. Staying quiet's not an option. When you find it hard to breathe, rest in peace, Eric Garner. Complacency is a sign of weakness that only keeps us in disease.
So when I got home and sang Let It Burn for my husband, he asked me, hey, what about when you say rest in peace, Eric Garner, what if you said more names of people who have been killed by the police? And I was like, oh, well, I mean, there's not really time for me to say any more names than Eric Garner's. And he was like, yeah, exactly. And I was like, what do you mean? I would have to stop the song to be able to fit in more names. And he was like, yeah, exactly. What would happen if you paused the song to list the names of the slain? And I thought about it for a little while and was like, maybe he's right. It could be pretty powerful if I did that.
Quiet's not an option when you find it hard to breathe.
Rest in peace, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile. Rest in peace, Jordan Edwards, Ayanna Jones, Freddie Gray, and Terrence Crutcher. Rest in peace, Michael Brown, Botham Jean, Ahmaud Arbery. Rest in peace, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Rest in peace, Tamir Rice.
Staying quiet's not an option when you find it hard to breathe.
I often get asked how I start writing songs. People will say, what's your process? Do you start with the melody? Do you start with the lyrics? Like, which one is it? Tell us. As if there's only one magical way. And I think most songwriters would agree that there's no one way to start a song. All the ways are valid. And me, I actively look for new ways to start songs because I find the challenge of it good or interesting. And it's also cool because when you start in different ways, you end up sometimes writing something that you probably never would have written if you just started the way that you normally do or the way that you feel more comfortable. So sometimes a song might start with a melody that's swirling around in my head and I record it on my voice notes or voice memos on my phone and then try and, piece something together from that. Sometimes it starts from a title or a theme, a concept that I want to flesh out. Sometimes it starts with me pretty much producing a whole track before I even lay down any melody whatsoever. Sometimes it does start with the lyrics. When I was younger, in my teens and early 20s, I'm pretty sure I wrote mostly from lyrics first because I wrote a lot of poetry and short stories when I was growing up. So it felt kind of like a natural thing to take a poem that was already done and then morph it into song form. This part could be the chorus, or this part could be the verse, and maybe tweak it from there and put a melody to it. But for most of my professional career, anything goes in terms of how a song starts. Of course, sometimes you're lucky and you get this stroke of inspiration that is like, and you're gifted from the universe this perfect chorus or verse that comes fully formed with the lyrics and the melody at the same time. But it doesn't always work like that. So most songwriters would agree that, it's a muscle that you've got to develop and a skill that you've got to work at and that kind of thing. So for me, one of the ways that I do that is just by switching it up on purpose. And on this album, maybe more than any other album, a lot of the songs came from a title and a groove that I had made on my looper. I was actually supposed to be teaching a lesson and someone didn't show up for their lesson. And so I was like, okay, great. I'm going to try out my new looper. I've had many loopers. And so I just came up with this cool little keyboard riff and put some percussion to it. And I knew that I had this title, If Not Now When, If Not Now When. And I just let that loop and loop, and I really had no idea how I was going to make it into a song. So I just kind of parked it in the back of my mind and went on to write other things. And eventually, one day the lyrics came. It was like, ding, 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 something's coming through. Better go get your notebook and write this down. And so I did, and it felt like a spoken word thing, which kind of freaked me out at first. I was like, but I'm a singer, so I should probably get a melody happening. And I tried for a few days to make it into a song with a melody that was sung. And the song was saying, nope, I just want to be spoken. So that's what I did. It felt a bit scary and vulnerable, but I think it's a pretty powerful piece, so I'm glad that I followed the instinct of the song.
If not now, when?
Give us your ear without the victim blaming. Let us be heard without the constant shaming. Give us space to tell our stories instead. Give it to us now, if not now, when? How about feminists marching for women of color? Acknowledge differences without making us other. See where oppression and privilege intersect. Give it to us now, if not now, when?
I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that each of us is creating the world in every moment, with every word, choice, and action. We are in the world, of the world, and we are creating it in real time.